Welcome everybody to show number 13 of Rockin The Code World with dotNetDave. I'm really glad you're here, and I'm super excited about this show because I'm going to have one of my favorite people in this world on as the guest today, and that's Magnus Mårtensson from Sweden. Magnus and I have hung out quite a bit in India when we've gone there, and actually Mauritius, and like I said, he's one of my favorite people in this world, and I'm super excited that I get to catch up with him, and because I haven't really talked to Magnus for almost 2 years now, since there were no conferences last year. Hey Mark, how's it going? And so anyway, I'm super excited. So I want to give as much time as I can to Magnus, and so I'm going to go through this, get into the beginning of the show really quick here. So the show's going to be off next week. So not my show next week, but you can instead check out the SQL Server Virtual Conference on CSharpCorner next Friday and Saturday. And I'm going to talk about this on the next slide, but 100% of the proceeds, I was just told, from the ticket sales will be donated to the Voice of Slum NGO in Delhi, India. So I'm really excited that they've decided to donate money to them. And again, I'll talk a little bit more about that, and maybe a little bit more when Magnus comes on. So if you haven't registered, please go register. They have over 4,000 registrations right now. So what else do you have to do on a Friday and Saturday, right? So well, maybe work, but So speaking of Magnus, one of my latest efforts is to do a cookbook, all with recipes all submitted by geeks like you and I, and so I've been working on that for over a year now, but I don't have enough recipes. So I really need your help to submit your own recipes to the Hello World Cookbook. You can go to helloworldcookbook.com. And if you don't, I know a lot of geeks don't like to cook out there. I know I'm different. And, if you don't cook, then you can also sign up to be a unit tester, a graphic artist, a editor, because I'm not good at English. And so there's a couple different ways you can support the book without actually submitting a recipe. So I hope you will go to helloworldcookbook.com today and do one of those two things. And, one of the reasons I'm doing this book is because, all the proceeds from my code performance book also goes to the Voice of Slum. But, in the last quarter or so, my book sales have really dropped off. So this is my new idea to get more money to the Voice of Slum. And the reason, I'm so passionate about this project is because the last time I actually hung out with Magnus, my guest, we actually toured the Voice of Slum in NGO in India, and it was literally probably the most moving experience I ever did while I'm traveling the world, speaking at conferences, or really traveling the world at all, really. So anyway, at the end of our stay, Magnus and Mahesh and I recorded a short little video, and I'm going to play that for you now.
So today we visited Voice of Slum here in India, and it's actually very incredible the work that they're doing here with the children to teach them and to basically feed them and make sure that they are healthy enough, and then give them an education to get out of this slum. It's a really worthy cause, and I urge anyone to donate and help.
I agree, and not only donate, but I am truly inspired by the people who run this.
Yeah.
You inspire me.
I think Chandni and Dave, you guys have done an amazing job, and you said it's very emotional to hear these stories and how much work you guys have done. I wish you guys success, and we will try to help you as much as we can. We're going to take your message and give it to the community.
Yes.
Thank you.
So that's a little video from our trip, and as you can see in the video, I had trouble getting words out because I was still very emotional from touring their facility and seeing just the dire need for help in India, especially the slums like we toured in Delhi. So please give to the book. Please go to the SQL conference next week. So the money there will be donated. And actually, Mahesh just posted on the chat that they're also matching 100% of the donations. So I'm really happy to see that, CSharpCorner is really helping now to support the voice of Slum, because I'm very passionate about helping them. So anyway, please go to the site and help out as soon as you can. Okay, so we have giveaways just like the other weeks. I'm going to give away a copy of CodeRush, my favorite refactoring tool from DevExpress first. And then at the end of the show, I'm going to be giving away some CSharpCorner swag. How do you win? You pay attention, have fast fingers. And actually, let me give you a hint for winning the CSharpCorner swag now, is that I'm going to be asking you the name of one of the new Azure services that were just announced in honor of our guest, Magnus. So I'll start Googling now, I guess. So everybody wins a copy of CodeRush from DevExpress. Like I said, CodeRush is my favorite refactoring tool. It's the only one I've ever used in Visual Studio. I use it every day that I code. And even the last week or so, I've been really getting into changing my way of doing unit tests. And instead of using the unit testing framework built into Visual Studio, I'm actually using a feature of CodeRush called Test Runner. And Test Runner, I'm actually getting better results through Test Runner, and the performance is much better than, the performance is much better than the unit tester in Visual Studio. Actually, all the testing I've done, Visual Studio versus Test Runner beats Visual Studio every single time. And, when I first started using Test Runner a while ago, I had a project I was working on for a consulting company, and doing the full suite of unit tests literally took almost an hour. So if I can shave 10, 15 minutes off of that, it's completely worth it, because that's 10 or 15 minutes more work I can do during the day. So please go to devexpress.com/dotNetDave and download it. It's a real copy. It's not a fakey stripped down copy. It's a real copy of Visual Studio. So go do that now. And with that, I want to bring on my really, really good friend, Magnus Mårtensson from Sweden. Magnus is founder, CEO of LoftySoft, a Microsoft Azure. He's a Microsoft Azure Most Valuable Professional and a Microsoft Regional Director. He is a consultant, tutor, process coach, technical lead, international speaker, traveling the world, like me, but a lot more than me, network and passionately learn and experience. Some of his passions include connecting with audience and organizations online and global conferences such as Cloudburst and Global Azure. And Global Azure is I've worked with, I've known Magnus just from the Global Azure conferences that I've gone to and spoken at. So anyway, welcome, Magnus.
Hello, David. How are you?
Sorry, I kind of screwed up your bio, but
that's okay. It was fine. I was just like, those were beautiful words. I guess maybe I wrote them, but
I really need to rehearse my bios before I read them, I think.
You're good. You're good. No worries.
So anyway, it's really great to see you. We haven't seen each other live and in person for almost 2 years now, and the last time we did see each other, we spent a lot of time with each other. We spent a lot of time in checking out
on the road.
the beautiful.
We're roadies.
Yeah. Well, we spent quite a while in Mauritius, in 2019, and then after that, we all flew up to India and had some fun up there and spoke and So, like I said, you're one of my favorite people. I really miss hanging out with you a lot. And as I've been saying I don't know if I've been saying it publicly for a long time, but, I've been trying to come to Sweden for a long time and speak, mainly just to hang out with you and your wife. I really want to meet your wife,
Soon as we can travel, mate. Soon as we can travel. That's the problem right now. We're all landlocked at this time.
Yeah. I just read this week that unless things change in California, I'm in the third phase of getting the vaccine in California, but luckily I'm at least in the first phase of the third phase to get it before the general public. So I do get to, because of my age, I do get to get it before the general public does. But so I'm looking forward to that. I hope, I hope that I can get it as soon as possible. And so anyway,
we really want to get out on the road again, everyone. So the friends in the industry that I hang out with at many conferences, I mean, there are some people that I have literally spent time with on 4 different continents, and that takes some dedication. But anyway, we love to travel to the conferences and speak at the conferences, maybe deliver a workshop or something, and also, of course, see the sites while you're at it, right? We had a nice tour around Mauritius, which was really nice. Mauritius is not a very big island, so we took a big tour around part of it. But to flip that around, right? I think I traveled more than ever in 2019. Not for any particular reason. I guess it kind of snowballs and you travel a little bit more every year. And then 2020, obviously nothing, right? I mean, I went to London once in February before they locked everything down, and that was it.
Yeah.
So the kind of person you and I and our friends that we meet on the road, if you will, we are not necessarily completely okay right now. There are people who don't want to travel much, maybe introverted, maybe want to stay home based and so forth, and that is just wonderful, lovely if you're that kind of person. We're the opposite.
Right.
For us to like lock us down in the home, I've been in this room, my office, right? I've been in this room since February. That's just weird.
Well, I have not gone 10 miles from where I live in a year.
Anyway,
and
I shouldn't complain. We're happy at home. We got food and work and everything's good. So if boredom is our biggest problem, we're still pretty okay.
Even this morning, I was thinking, about, it's been almost a year, since we've been locked down, and I don't know where that echo is coming from, but it's been, almost a year, and like you said, it's you're right. This has been tough adjustment for us. Again, I'm not complaining, but and that's what I tell myself a lot of times when I want to complain. I go, Dave, it could be a lot worse. Like you could not be here. So, so if I wake up in the morning, it's a good day, right?
Oh my gosh.
but anyway, it's kind of like what you and I you were just discussing, where it was a hard adjustment for me last year to all of a sudden not go anywhere. But no, what I find interesting now, obviously, right? I know a lot of conference organizations, businesses that it's their bread and butter to organize conferences, right? I speak at their conferences. I co-organize as maybe I'm part of like a program committee here, or I do some part of their show. Maybe bring in some speakers, help them find the right people for their conference and such. So I know a lot of these teams or companies that do conferencing. And of course, obviously, they're struggling now. I mean, they basically had bookings for their next event. They had already started doing a lot of groundwork for it, and they even had a venue booked and stuff. And then they had to back out of deals and things like that. It's been painful for this kind of industry, and then everybody flipped to virtual, right? But when that happened. Usually the local user group in your city
or something like that normally don't bother to be virtual. Why
Right.
would they? I mean, it's not really
The
they're
point
not
is
gonna
being
get
there. Yeah.
They're not going to get any viewers and stuff, and it's there's no point in the effort.
Right.
But now that everybody was locked away at home, everyone, and we're tech people, right? So every little technical community went online, and of course competed essentially with the conferences that also had to turn around and go online.
Right.
And now everybody was online,
Mhm.
and that was exciting the first couple of weeks, maybe a couple of months, and then it started to get tiresome really fast. I can't tell you how many people I have talked to that just feel a tremendous sense of virtual fatigue, if you will.
Yeah.
We just we can't handle it. There are so many events. You could do multiple per day, and in that noise, right? Things just get lost. People just get tired of it, just get sick of it.
Right.
Big part of the experience as an attendee is to go to the event, whether it's the local user group or the conference in your city annually, or maybe you even get to travel to a conference remote now and then. That's a large part of the experience, going out on the town in Prague or wherever you're able to go. But now everything went virtual, and after a while, man, it just knocked the wind out of you.
Yeah. It's been literally the most boringest year I've had.
I hear you.
And you're right about the conferences. Part of going to a conference, like you said, is being there and networking and being around a bunch of people and also having fun, like at the gatherings or going to visit around the city or, and stuff like that. But, the biggest thing is being there. Right. And I've said this many, many times. I've probably written about it too, that, when I go to conferences, I rarely even go to a session.
No.
It's, I did more when I was more of a beginner, but now I hardly go at all, and it's not only because, we've talked about, how boring a lot of conference speakers can be and dry, and everything. So that's part of it. But, the bigger part is networking and talking to people. And that's one thing I really miss because, part of where I come up with ideas for articles and things like that is by being in the community and talking to people and talking to people's pain points,
For sure.
And even like the second time I went to India, based on some comments that were said to me, I wrote this article about called "There's No Shortcut to Success," but that was a direct. The cause of that was being in India and talking to the developers there, and then coming home and trying to write an article about what I heard and what what my suggestions are. And that's my favorite part, and especially since again, I'm not complaining, but since I live alone, that was really a kind of a social thing for me. Is to go out and be around other people and be around other geeks and stuff like that. And I think something that a lot of people don't realize about the being in person, even though they're introverts, and because I'm an introvert, I know everybody laughs when I say that, but I am, and now I forgot what I was going to say.
No, you're talking about the networking, right? The friends, right, out there.
Yeah, the networking, and that's such an important part. Oh, I know what I was going to say. So, a couple of years ago, before the pandemic, my daughter-in-law was actually the #2 person at the Austin Film Festival.
Oh.
And so 2 years ago, she invited me to come out and be one of their photographers.
Okay.
And that was a really great experience. And but one of the things I remember, from being there in between when I was shooting, the movie stars and stuff, was I would hang out at this restaurant nearby to all the action, and just being there and having some food and stuff. There were so many people in that room. They were actors, writers, directors, producers,
Yep.
all these big name people. I met like the guy who does the Frankenstein movies or something like that, and so I was around all these super creative people, and just by being in the same room, that kind of rubbed off on me.
Yeah.
I could feel the creativity bubble up inside of me, just by being around these people. And I think it's the same thing when you go to conferences. You get inspired, by talking to other people and seeing the other, speakers and stuff. And that doesn't happen in virtual world.
No, it doesn't.
No. Yeah.
So some of the most excellent people, some of the most profound people, the funniest people, the smartest people I know are in this technical community. People that I love and care for, that I meet them everywhere around the world. Like I said, some people I've met on like 4 continents by now. And after n number of years, you become friends and you hang out. And that is a huge part of my social circle. Yeah. We all have the WhatsApp channels and Signal and whatever you're supposed to have now, that we chat and hang out, and we have virtual bars together and stuff. But obviously, it's a far cry from hanging out together, right? Mm-hmm. And when we do, you were talking about learning about maybe not finding the time to go to the sessions. Of course, there are many great sessions at every conference, otherwise it wouldn't exist, and many great speakers as well. However, right, I don't find that I have the time to focus on sessions much when I'm at conference, like you said. Well, but what I do is I talk to my co-speakers at the speakers lounge or the speakers dinner or whenever we meet up. Mm-hmm. What is your session about? Tell me about it. How do you come up with this topic? What's the thing, or maybe technical thing you're describing, problem you're solving? And if I can get sort of the background story for it. And then maybe I try to edge into my schedule at the conference to maybe go to 1 or 2 of the sessions and support the speaker, the person that I know. Yeah. But mainly, honestly, that is my main source of learning. That's how I learn, through, it's like osmosis from the social circle, right? It absorbs from just being around with them. And that's a really big part that I really miss about not being able to travel at this time.
Yeah, and like you were talking, and I've struggled with trying to inspire, more newbie geeks to go to these parties and stuff like that. And, and I don't tell them to go so they can get free liquor, which is also a good point, right? But, yeah, but I try to get them to go because, like you said, that's where the real learning happens, right?
Yeah,
is after, not in the conference sessions. And even, when I ran my user group for 20 years, when I ran my user group for 20 years, I kept trying, after the meeting every month, we would go out to the local bar and hang out and drink and talk and stuff. And I would tell the members that I learned more from that than I do in the user group.
100%. Yeah, absolutely. It's brilliant. And just to sit down with like-minded, profound people with similar technical interests and mileage, right? But still different, so that you can sit down and talk about maybe, I don't know, the latest framework so-and-so, and what is good and what is bad, the implications of that on the industry, blah, 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 right? That just rolls on. I mean, it's terribly geeky for anyone who isn't part of that world to listen in on that.
Sure.
It's almost like it's completely different language, right? But I guess with any special interest, technical interest, whatever interest, you develop this language that you share.
Right.
Yeah. So anyway, you were talking about alcohol. I have wine.
I know.
It's evening time here in Sweden, so
I know it's only 10 here, so it's not legally allowed to drink yet. So no.
Yeah,
But I keep forgetting. If anybody has questions, please put them in the chat, and I can get them to Magnus. Either ask questions about Azure or this topic we're talking about. Whatever like I keep saying over and over again, guys, this is, or girls, this is your show, so you need to ask questions and tell me what you want. I bring the great guests on. It's your responsibility to ask the questions. Otherwise, I'm just going to talk about traveling around Mauritius with Magnus.
Of course, you're bringing great guests, sir. You're magnetic. We just want to be here and hang out with you.
I hope so. I'm trying to make a show like that, and where we could talk about pretty much anything and be a little bit different than just showing code the whole time. And there's tons of shows about showing code, and we really don't do that in this show. So
that's cool.
So since there aren't any questions yet, I thought I'd start with something to kind of, otherwise we'll just keep talking about, being at conferences. So you're a Microsoft MVP, but you're also a regional director.
Yes.
So for those of you who don't know, so, in the MVP program, there's MVPs and then above MVPs, pretty much the way I look at it, or regional directors. So can you explain what a regional director is and does?
So we file organizationally in the same organization inside of Microsoft, which is the community organization. But officially, there is no relationship as such between MVP and RD. There's about, I don't know, the number varies, I suppose, over time as well. Let's say it's somewhere between 4,000 and 5,000 MVPs. Could that be a number? I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's around something like that.
Thereabouts, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's a public catalog at the Microsoft MVP site where you could search all the names, all the people who are MVPs. And MVPs are technically deep people that are experts in a certain technology, certain area. Myself, it's Azure, right? I've been an Azure MVP since the beginning of Azure, so it's a long time now. It's actually over 10 years now. And that's my expertise area. That's what I work with every day. My customers come to me to get help with Azure and so forth, right? Unrelated, though, is a network called the Regional Directors. It's a very old network. It's been around for 20, 25 years or so at Microsoft. So it's a long time, before the internet, quite literally. Back then, a region actually meant something. But nowadays, when I present, maybe I say that I'm a regional director, and I always make the joke that I don't have a region. I don't work at Microsoft. I don't have a region, and I don't direct anything. So it's a little bit funny because that's actually a common misconception that I'm a Microsoft employee. And we're we're actually literally supposed to say that we're not. We can't go around the world pretending like we're Microsoft employees, because we're not.
Right.
But we are close confidants. We are a vetted group of experienced people, entrepreneurs, business leaders, that sort of thing. We hang out with Microsoft at a very close relationship. We get a lot of insights from Microsoft, but it's our job to distill the world for Microsoft and bring in everything we find, everything we see, right? If we find somewhere that a launch of a product didn't go well in I don't know, Romania, right? Just off the top of my head, right? We might bring that in and say, oh, we noticed that this thing didn't spin well. Or we talk about something technology-wise, now that the new version of SharePoint is out, blah, blah, blah. And then we bring in our experience to Microsoft on this topic. So they have sort of a network group that connects to the world, or connects Microsoft leadership to the outside world. And that's our job. I'm humbled, very happy that I'm currently part of that network. It's a lot of fun. And there's some great people in that network.
Yeah. That's I know when at the MVP Summit, you guys are always off in your own little
Now we have a little bit we have 2 days out of the MVP week. Thursday, Friday, we have our own little RD Summit where we get the good fortunes of talking to some VP level people at Microsoft, and just, it's good stuff.
Yeah. And speaking of conferences, I missed the MVP Summit for sure. It's we're going to not have it again this year pretty much. And I didn't go the year before that all this happened. And so I haven't been in like 3 years.
Yeah, I've gone every year, and in the beginning, I was 10 years ago or so. I went to the States about once a year, and then it turned into like, okay, I'm going to Ignite as well, or to Build, or both, and at least 2-3 times a year, and then maybe 1 or 2 times more. I also deliver sometimes training with various training vendors internationally. I could go to anywhere. I've been to like Toronto, well, that's in Canada, but I've been to like Raleigh or Texas, Houston, or it could be anywhere that I travel with some of these training vendors that send you on site to deliver training. So it turned into me going stateside. I don't know, at least a handful of times a year, which maybe isn't much, depending on who you ask. Like some people, that's a very big lot, but for others, it's not so much. But the number has gone up. And then the MVP Summit every year, is rolling into Microsoft Corp sites, right? A couple of 1,000, 3,000 MVPs rolling into Bellevue and Seattle, of course, as well. And then up in Redmond, hanging out with Microsoft. It's one of my favorite events. Exactly. The event is the same every year, but it is, meeting up with all the friends, not only your MVP friends, but you become friends with a lot of the program managers and the people who actually build the services that you're an expert in.
Right.
You provide feedback all year round to these products. You are maybe part of private previews and as an MVP. And after 10 years, these are some of your best friends as well, some of these people, right? I do miss the MVP Summit a lot.
Yeah, me too. And like you said, it's the only time I really get to see my really good friends in the program, because it's the only time we can all get together, and people fly from all over the world. And so, especially the international people that I know, it's the only time I get to see them. Right. So, and I really miss it.
We'll always have Mauritius, you know that.
Yeah. We could talk in a whole hour just on that trip.
Yeah, for sure. That was great. We had let's not dive into it deeply, but with the rum tasting was excellent.
Yes.
Jesus, we got pretty. We tasted a lot of rum. Let's leave it at that. Maybe, I don't know, but
I warned you guys before we got there that this was going to happen. And
oh yeah, it was significant amounts.
I know.
It's funny. Like after the tour, you came to the little shop, and then they had this option that you could peel off. You could either go and taste, like they had some marmalades and things they also made, right?
Right.
And so you could like go in that direction if you wanted. And then and then there was like, or you can go this way around the corner here. We have a little bar where we have like the very most expensive, the very most fine versions of rum that we have. And our group was like 20 people, right? It was like mixed tourists, and we were 8 people, 10 people, like half the group almost. Maybe it was more than 20 people. We were about a third of the group. And like everybody else had just had enough. They went to the marmalades and the shop and then out. And we all, like all the tech geeks, we were like, oh yeah, hell yeah.
Let's check it out.
The corner, more rum. That was good.
Yeah. And, the first time I went there the year before, I was actually by myself, and because the conference actually arranged for a private driver for me for the whole day. So he basically did that tour, but just me and him.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah. And so I ended up there too. And, it was around lunchtime, I guess, after the tour. And so, I was trying to figure out what I was going to do for lunch. And I met this really nice couple from England. And they invited me they had a reservation at the restaurant there, and they invited me to have lunch with them.
Wow.
A
that's
complete
great.
stranger,
That's awesome. That's kind of what I like. You and I are similar in that respect, that we go out and adventure and find things and do things, and it's not everybody's super comfortable with that or in doing that, but we certainly are, and it's a lot of fun. I really enjoy it, to just adventure out, and that's actually, so maybe even we should, if you're listening right now in the audience here, and you are technically inclined as an expert with something, and if you're not an MVP, you might want to actually apply for the program and see if you can get in, honestly, right? Because being in this program is very beneficial for your career. And plus, if you do like to get around a little bit, if you're one of those people, a lot of things can open up for you as an MVP, right? If you want to go speak at conferences, MVPs are usually in the first pick, at least in the conferences that I arrange the agenda for. I will pick the MVPs first, and in so doing, right, you get to be invited as a speaker, and you become part of this community. So if for any reason you feel that you could become an MVP, go for it. I mean, give it a try. The worst thing that can happen is you don't get it. In fact, I'll tell you a little secret. I didn't get it the first time when I applied, but I was automatically scheduled for the next turn because my application was unclear at that time. So back in those days, Azure was very young, and up until then, I had focused a lot on ASP.NET. So it was unclear when they reviewed my application whether I wanted to be an ASP.NET MVP or an Azure MVP, because I just put everything in there, right? Because I wanted to have a lot of volume, and it actually ended up to my disadvantage because they couldn't place me. It was like the sorting hat where it got short-circuited, and they couldn't place me. So they didn't know if I was Slytherin or Gryffindor. So they pushed it back to me and said, you gotta decide, man. And so I reapplied, and I put all the emphasis into Azure because that was my passion at that time. Azure was young and happening. It's still happening. It's not super young yet anymore, but it's still happening a lot for sure. Oh, I got to talk about the Swedish data centers. Yay. Yeah, we're getting them finally.
All right.
But anyway, so I didn't get it the first round. I had to go another round. But even so, when I did get the MVP title, I was, in fact, the first MVP for Azure in all of the Nordic countries. So I'm very, very happy with that. That was excellent. So for a whole half year, I was the only Azure MVP in the Nordics.
Yeah. And you brought up the MVPs, and I think because you were going to be on the show this week, and I've been thinking about the MVP program. It seems like Mahesh is going to have a series of shows basically on that. On how do you what really is a Microsoft MVP, and how do you become one, and what are the benefits and stuff like that. So I proposed that to him this week, and it looks like we're going to have actually multiple shows on that subject. So
it's funny. Mahesh is in screen here with a question, which is very timely. I bet they were timing that behind the scenes here. So to answer that question, Mahesh, it's very easy. The first thing I'm going to do is obviously travel. And if you want me to be more specific, I would love to go back to India.
Me too.
That would be one of my top destinations. I literally had, and this is so sad. Many conferences got canceled right at the beginning of the pandemic. Before we kind of calibrated the world and figured out what we could and couldn't do. A lot of stuff shut down, right?
Right.
And so they shut down the CSharpCorner conference in Delhi, and you and I were both going to be there, and speak and represent and so forth. And they had, I had talked to Mahesh about how to set this conference this time, and we timed it together with Holi. Right. And so it was in Holi time there in the beginning of the year of 2019.
Yeah, I've asked him to do that too, because I want to go do that.
2020.
I want to be part of the.
Exactly. Yeah. And so I literally had this whole plan. We were gonna drive around. I was gonna bring my family. We were gonna go to Taj Mahal. I've already been, but really to just see it together. And we were going to Mathura for apparently the Holi festival in Mathura is kind of legendary. We were going to go there. We were also going to go visit the Voice of Slum, and so I could show my children what it's like maybe for other people, other young people in the world.
Right.
My children are fortunate to be sort of born in paradise. Sweden is a little spot of paradise on this globe, right? And for them to sort of broaden their minds, I was so excited about going to India with the whole family and everything. And we had to cancel it all. We had great plans. Everything was scheduled. I had hotel reservations. I had arranged for drivers and everything, but no.
Yeah.
So that was bad.
Yeah.
And so I would again, Mahesh, let's make new India traveling plans stat.
Yeah. I think I tweeted this week that, and I've said this for the last year is, I really, really, really miss, being in India, and I really, really miss all of my friends and followers there. And
For sure.
and this week, because I was just goofing around looking at, the setup for Alexa, I found out that Alexa has a Indian speaking, India speaking voice now. Yeah. So
That's amazing.
I changed my Alexa to speaking, Indian accent.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I tweeted, I changed it to that because I miss all my friends in India. So this is a way for me to not miss you so much, is by having Alexa have an Indian accent.
Is your shopping automatically ordered from India now?
No. It doesn't do that. It just has I tried the Australian accent, but I had trouble understanding it.
That was hilarious, man.
So I went to the Indian one.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. I haven't tried the Dutch one yet, but I'll see.
Yeah. So speaking of global events, though, speaking of conferences and community, you do know that the Global Azure has been announced, right?
No, I didn't.
Okay. So we, it's still some way out, but we wanted to publicly announce, and I've been sending it to all the MVPs and all the community leaders that I know. They now know that Global Azure is on. It's going to be in April, I think, if I recall, 15 to 17 of April is our target dates. And so there's going to be live stream for that time, but there's also going to be, of course, anyone who wants to speak, I believe. So maybe I should tell the audience quickly what Global Azure is.
Sure, yeah.
So for 10 years, we have ran this, there we go, globalazure.net. We have ran this Global Azure event where we just simply instigate this event. There's a global lab that anyone can participate in. But of course, we don't own or take credit for anything. The heroes in the story are all the community leaders around the world that have user group meetups, regular meetups around the year, right? And they have a group of people that come and share and learn and community feeling and all that. So with the Global Azure event, what we do is we say, okay, we call out, we give a date, right? That day or this time, at exactly this day, everybody together, let's do a community event on the same day. And it's been growing and growing.
Yeah.
And so again, we were planning one for the spring of last year, and we had to flip that to virtual, and everything was just panic and chaos. So 2019 is the more representative year that was a physical meetup year, no pandemics in sight. At that time, there were 329 locations around the world, user group meetups, community events, some very small, modest size, 20 people in a conference room, others really big, like 500 people, huge, right? And there were some live streams and everything. So you just follow #Global Azure. You can go to the site and sign up. But the really cool thing here is we're talking about community knowledge, excitement, sharing around a specific topic. And obviously that specific topic is Azure. So around that topic, that's basically the only guide rail we've set. Well, we've set a couple of baselines, right? We cannot force a community not to charge for their local event.
Yeah.
But we urge them to consider getting enough sponsors so that it is a free event to
Right.
attend. So we kind of nudge them in that direction if we may, but again, we don't control them. So that's what's one of the guidance pieces that we give, but also that the topic has to be Azure, right? So obviously, right? Because otherwise it would be weird. Like, we have a baking event. But if you're talking about over 300 locations times whatever number there is, we have calculated, we have a bit of survey and stuff, but we've calculated, we're talking about over 20,000 people activated community-wise, globally, worldwide. We roll around all the time zones. The end-to-end, the event is like 30 hours with some overlap at the ends, right? And it's actually spectacular. And so spring of last year, pandemic happened. We had to like flip everything over to virtual. And so we're doing a virtual event again this spring because still can't travel, still can't have meetups. Yeah. So last year when we flipped to virtual, we quickly put together a site, connected it to Sessionize, and got all the speakers, anyone who wanted to present, to sign up there. And so they would get into our site, right? Mm-hmm. But again, full credit back to whatever community they come from, full credit back to the excellent speakers and everything. All we do is instigate, right? We bring some sponsors, we instigate it, we set up a global lab. We've done labs with cancer research, and we have had a racing game lab that everyone can go and deploy their own piece to Azure. Mm-hmm. So lots of happenings and fun stuff. So what Global Azure is global community spirit, if you will. So that's the thing that makes me really excited. And I'm so looking for 2021, man. It's got to be again, right? It's got to be real meetups again. Yeah. I really, really, truly hope so. Or 2022. I mean, 21 here is going to be virtual.
Yeah, I remember I went to the very first Global Azure conference, and and I still remember that one. And then I've spoken at the last, I think, 3 or 4 that were in person, up in Orange County, just north of me. So I really liked the conference, and I have to hand it off to you guys to putting on this global event in just a handful of you doing this. And
I mean, we're glorified administrators. Right, we don't do any more than that. Again, the heroes are the community leaders who take their time to organize events and so forth. What's exciting is, because we also travel a bit as speakers and so on, wherever we go, and especially at the MVP Summit, of course, a lot of the MVPs are community leaders where they come from, and they are many of them are part of Global Azure every year. What's so rewarding for us is all the stories, all the conversations we get to have around the world, wherever we go. So-and-so comes up to us and say, I run the Global Azure event in Bangalore, in Berlin, in Budapest, and I'm just saying B names here. But right, it's just crazy, all the stories they tell. And I think it triggers people that it is everyone at the same time. We feel part of a global movement. And that's fantastic, because a lot of these communities acknowledge that this is the most fun event that they put on every year. They, of course, normally create, an event a month, an event a quarter. So they have other events going as well. But Global Azure is everyone. And that's exciting.
Yeah, it's a pretty big feat to put all that on. I know you're just administrators, but still.
We're having fun with it. If it wasn't fun, we wouldn't do it. And it's really rewarding we get to network with a lot of more people doing this. So that's why we do it. Hey, I promised to tell you about the Swedish data centers. Can I do that?
Yeah.
So Sweden's getting Azure data centers. Did you know?
I didn't know.
Okay. So there are now so many Azure data centers. Microsoft has been counting on the site. Do you recall how many Azure data centers the original Azure release, the first was? Physical?
I think there's only like 3 or something.
No, there were more.
4?
There were 8.
8. Okay.
Yeah. So there were 4 in the US when they opened up. and 2 in Europe and 2 in Asia. So 8 total globally.
Yeah.
And then Microsoft has been counting, right, on this site. So you could go to, like, if you type, there was a site for Azure Regions on the Azure site for Microsoft. We could see where all the regions were located physically. And actually, quite recently, they just stopped counting the exact number because now they have so many data centers. They have multiple countries have government data centers, right? So they literally bought a whole data center which is government controlled, or even more than one. The US has multiple, for example, and there's Australia have one, and so on. What's exciting now is that now they're just talking about geographies, right? So Europe is a geography, and there's plenty of data centers. There's like 2 in Switzerland, 4 in Germany, 2 in France, and so forth, right? There's plenty of them. And a while back, our wonderful, lovely neighbors, the Norwegians, with all the oil money, they were like, yeah, we're going to pony up for a couple of data centers. And I was like, God damn it, really? right next door, right? And they're actually officially outside of the EU and so on, but they just got themselves 2 data centers and that they have built, right? And so Norway have 2. And then they started, Microsoft purchased land in Sweden. And I was like, yes! and then they filed, because that's public record, they filed building permits for data centers. I was like, yes! And then after a long time, now finally it's been announced that those data centers will also run Azure workloads. So Sweden is getting 2 Azure data centers. And what's amazing about that is that one of them is just outside of Malmo, between Malmo and Lund, and that's exactly where I live. So I have now 15 kilometers physically to the nearest Azure data center. It's not open yet, but it'll be soon.
Yeah. Well,
very excited.
Yeah, that's cool. That's a lot closer than I am. I'm close to a data center, but not that close.
I'm super close. I wonder what my ping time is going to be to that data center. I bet it's going to be pretty good.
Well, let's hope so.
Yeah. I'm sure
if they did the setup right, because 10 years ago when I worked at a company, it was taking the measurements that were being reported to me every morning was, going from San Diego to Florida was faster than going from San Diego to Los Angeles.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. And that's weird.
Yeah, but I think that's probably more however that networking was set up,
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. So anyway, well, it's getting close to the end of the time. I'm really bummed out. But so one thing I always ask my guests is, well, 2 things. One is there anything you want to plug besides Azure?
Global Azure is already plugged. That's the one on my mind and in my heart. And then, of course, again, if you feel that you want to become an Azure MVP or an MVP at all, find the local Microsoft D or the local MVP and talk to them about what it means to be an MVP and figure it out and learn about it a little bit and see if it's a match for you. And then maybe go ahead and give it a try. The worst thing that happens is that you get declined. Right? It's not the end of the world.
Well, if you're a speaker, you're used to rejection. So
true. So that's an MVP program and Azure in general, and then global Azure all the way.
So we were talking before the show about cooking, but so besides Azure, what do you like to do for fun?
It's cooking. Yeah, it is. I passionately build on my outdoor kitchen right next to, attached to my house. I put a roof over it this fall, and now this spring I'm going to start building the counters and things inside there. I have this big, there's one called the Big Green Egg, which is kind of a Kamado style ceramic grill, but there's another brand called Kamado Joe, which they're red. So I have a big red Kamado Joe outside, and I do a lot of barbecuing. There's a rotisserie thing for it, and you can do like rotisserie wings. Man, when you get here,
Yeah.
rotisserie wings. I'm telling you, man, it's good.
Besides I want to meet your wife and just hang out with you, the other reason I want to come is because of all the food you post on Facebook, and even though I'm not on Facebook as much as I used to anymore, but still your recipes kind of make me jealous, that's for sure.
Well, there are some food pictures on my Instagram, and actually I'm so you see my little handle here, No Up Man. I'm No Up Man on every platform, all the platforms, on Instagram, on Twitter, on LinkedIn, on Facebook, everywhere. I'm No Up Man. That's me. And so you'll find my Insta if you want to see my food pictures. I don't know if a lot of people want to do that, but
well, there's somebody.
Send me a nice tweet.
Yeah. Send Magnus a tweet. I've tweeted a couple of times to somebody on Twitter that she has to stop posting food pictures because she's in the East Coast, and so I see her food pictures 3 hours before my dinner.
Oh my God. Stop doing that. That's too painful.
You're making me freaking hungry at 3:00 in the afternoon.
Exactly.
Well, thanks for being on the show. I'm sad it wasn't 2 hours. I'm sorry about the echoing that's happening, everybody. I don't know what's happening.
I haven't heard a bit of echo, so I think it's good.
Okay, as long as nobody else is hearing it, but I hear it. But thanks for being on the show. If you want to hang out afterwards to see the numbers, please do. And I haven't met your wife, but good wishes to your wife and your family, and please stay safe. We can't lose anybody, but we can't lose you for sure. So because I need somebody to hang out with in India.
I'm gonna be safe. We're gonna be together soon somewhere in the world.
Yeah. So fingers crossing we'll hang out in India next year.
Yes, please.
I'm looking forward to it, and so I can not only my Indian friends, but I get to see you.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It's an added bonus for speaking in India.
It really is.
All right. Well, thanks a lot. I hope to see you after the show, and like I said, well wishes for you and your family there, and be great. I'll see you next time.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks. Well, that's my interview of Magnus. We really didn't get any questions, but I think we filled up the hour with some pretty useful information, mostly about conferences and community, and Magnus and I are I don't know what's going on with my setup today, but Magnus and I are really big in the community, and it's a big passion for both of us, and I can't speak for Magnus, but if you ever want to reach out to me and talk about community or how to get started or anything like that, please do. I'm not only will I be happy to help you out, but a lot of the questions that you guys send me, that's what I turn into articles on CSharpCorner and my site. So any feedback will be great about any of that. So anyway, I had a great time speaking to Magnus. I hope I can get him on soon again, as soon as I can. But I know it's later there. So, but like you saw in the beginning, he gets to drink wine during my show. I just get to drink my iced tea. Okay. So here's the CSharpCorner gifts. We'll see if this one might be a little bit hard. So if you've been paying attention to Azure News, you'll be able to get this, and you just have like 20 seconds to answer. Otherwise, Simon will pick this person afterwards. Okay, ready? So like I said, this was inspired by Magnus being on the show today. What's the new service announced by Azure that deals with health issue? Helps you with health information. Nobody knows? Okay. Well, if someone knows, you can Google quick. you'll win those prizes. So just post it on the chat before the show ends, and we'll pick the winner. There you go. Mark Davis won again. It's the Azure Health Bot. Mark is one of my friends, and Mark is actually the other guitarist on the intro song that you see every week when the show starts. So he's the shredder playing on the song, because I'm not a shredder. So I guess Mark gets some more C# stuff. Congratulations, Mark. And since he's listening, reach out and let's chat soon. I know you wanted to work on some music together, so reach out to me and let's discuss that some more, since we're going to be on lockdown for a lot more longer. All right. So thanks for everybody for watching. I really appreciate you being on the show and spending part of your Saturday, whether it's the morning or afternoon or evening with me and Magnus. Next week, actually, we're off next week, so watch the SQL conference on CSharpCorner next week, and please donate to the Voice of Slum through that when you sign up to go see that conference next week. Okay, so next week I have Kendra Havens, program manager from Visual Studio and Microsoft.net. I'm really glad to not only have her on the show, because I've seen, like you, I've seen her a lot in the Microsoft conferences, but she's also works in Visual Studio, which you all know that I'm very passionate about making Visual Studio a better environment for writing code quality and good performance code. So I will have lots of questions for her, but please send me your questions beforehand if you have any questions for her about Visual Studio. Okay. Please, everybody, I say this every week, please be safe about the COVID-19 pandemic. It's hitting record numbers here in America, so I'm really bummed out about all that. But we are getting the shot now. It's not as fast rollout as we need, but at least they're working on it. So whether you have the shot or not, one thing you can do to help your fellow human being, no matter where you live, is to donate blood, because they need that as part of the, treating anybody who's hurt or has COVID. So I'm actually donating tomorrow morning down at my local blood bank, which is only a few blocks from me. And so that's what I do every 4 weeks, to donate blood. And every week when I go there, every month when I go there, they're telling me about the dire shortages they have. They always have shortages, but they're really in a shortage now because people just don't want to go because of COVID. So feel safe at those facilities, because they're medical facilities, and they're safer than going to the grocery store for sure. So please donate blood. It doesn't cost you a thing, and it will make you feel really good about helping your fellow human. So with that, I'll see you in a couple weeks. Don't forget about the conference next week on CSharpCorner. And please email me any suggestions to Rockin The Code World at CSharpCorner.com. And I'll see you next time.